nossa jornada, não é mesmo? E agora é a apresentação da Jane Godwin, e eu vou estar aqui fazendo a apresentação dela. So, Jane Godwin Coury is a translator, proofreader, English teacher, and teacher educator. She holds a master's degree in Applied Linguistics and teaches at Faculdade Phorte on the BA in Translation and Interpreting and postgraduate programs. She is also an ELT materials writer, a Cambridge Teacher English Assessment and specialist, and a Braz-Tesol member. Originally from the UK, she has lived in Brazil since 1994 and draws on experience from France, Germany, and the USA. So, thank you, Jane. The room is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Rodrigo. And hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great.
Yes.
Okay. So nice to see so many people here. It's wonderful. So today I'm going to be speaking mostly in English, but some Portuguese as well. Okay. So the title of my talk today is Ensinando inglês para tradutores. Okay. Well, Rodrigo has just introduced me, so I think he said most of what I've got here, actually. But just a brief presentation. So I currently teach on the BA degree in Translation Interpreting and the postgraduate courses at Phorte. Have an MA in Applied Linguistics, a postgraduate diploma in Education. And ever since I arrived in Brazil, so that was 1994, I have been teaching English. I've been a teacher educator for 35 years, and also translating and proofreading academic texts, because where I live in São Carlos, if anyone's from São Carlos, there are two universities here, USP and Federal, so there's lots of work, thank goodness. I don't know if you know, but I started my career in Brazil at Cultura Inglesa. So I worked at Cultura for about 11 years. And I was a coordinator there. And I'm still a Cambridge examiner, so I still have contact with Cultura Inglesa Ribeirão Preto, which is my center. And before I came to Brazil, I taught English in France, Germany, and the USA, 1 year for each country. So that was all interesting experiences. And nowadays I'm in the Braz-Tesol Intercultural Language Education SIG, if any of you know Braz-Tesol. And so we organize events. In fact, we had one just last month at Faculdade Cultura Inglesa. So check us out there. Okay, so let's get stuck in then. So today, we're going to be talking about English for translators, which is really English for specific purposes, if you're going to call it, going to put it under an umbrella term. So my aims are really to talk to you about what I've been doing over the last maybe 4 years. I've been creating material for English for translators. And what the aims are of my material and courses are for the students to spot and avoid common translation pitfalls, especially from Portuguese to English. So on the course that I give, we have a subject which is versão, okay, so Portuguese to English, and I will show you some of those pitfalls. And the aim is for the students to become more accurate and to translate more accurately and naturally, and also to understand language in context. So not just like individual words, but to understand chunks and collocations and how to use it in context, and being aware that some words might have different nuances or different meanings. and also to improve the awareness of tone, register, and culture. So culture from many different countries. And register pops up again and again in everything that we do. So the formality, whether it's neutral, whether it's informal, and we do a lot of work on that because it is quite challenging. And then I also try to get my students to think critically about translation choices. So many translators now use machine translation. Okay, but you know, there's a lot more to it than that. Our jobs are not in jeopardy yet because we have a lot of nuances, we have cultural aspects, and many more. So this is a big thing of the course as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So first of all, let's talk about the pitfalls between Portuguese and English. And this is by no means an exhaustive list, okay? It's just a splattering of some things. So for example, false cognates, and we're going to have a look at that in a minute, between Portuguese and English. Collocations. So we're going to have a look at where we can look at collocations and more advanced ones. Countable and uncountable nouns. So this one is always a challenge, but it's something that keeps changing as well, because of course language is dynamic. It's not like mathematics where 2 + 2 = 4, right? So for example, I proofread and translate academic articles, and over the years I've seen many differences. For example, is data is, data are, can you say works, etc. Okay. The use of the apostrophe, that's always a tricky one. Prepositions. So what I teach my students is that prepositions can be connected to different planets, if you like. There's the planet of dependent prepositions, the planet of prepositions of time, prepositions of movement, place. Then we've got stranding prepositions. And then of course, we've got phrasal verbs that are technically called particles. Okay. So phrasal verbs and verb tenses, which are sometimes quite different between Portuguese and English, and then different again between different variations of English, like the UK, the United States. And infinitive versus gerund. So that's always one that gets people, and it's something that we need to study. Okay, so this is, as I said, just a little insight into some of the pitfalls between Portuguese and English. But that's not all, because we also have pragmatics. So how people actually use the language in real communication. So we've got descriptive grammar and prescriptive grammar. So you've got the grammar from the books, the prescriptive, the descriptive that we use day to day. Register, as I said before, so the formality, informality. World Portugueses and world Englishes. So I'm gonna tell you about a project that I did with some students. Idioms and expressions. Style. So every culture has their style. So for example, the way that the Australians might do something and the Americans might do something could be different. And this language of advertising, language of tourism might play on the culture. And critical thinking. Okay, so those are just some of the things. So let's first of all have a look at false cognates. So here I have a little exercise that I hope that we can do together. So on the left, we have a little story in Portuguese, and then we have the translation in English. Could I call on a volunteer to read out the story in Portuguese? Leonardo, great. Go ahead. Can you read it out then?
Of course. The part in Portuguese, right?
Portuguese, yeah.
Homem brasileiro chamado Jonas estava estudando para se tornar tradutor em uma universidade no Brasil. Ele estava realizando uma pesquisa sobre falsos cognatos entre o português e o inglês. Frequentemente, ele passava muitas horas na biblioteca, folheando livros e jornais em busca de fontes para a tese de doutorado que estava escrevendo. Jonas se sentia muito à vontade em ambientes fechados, com a cabeça enfiada em um livro ou concentrado no laptop. Em uma noite de terça-feira, quando a biblioteca havia acabado de fechar, Jonas pegou sua blusa de frio e caminhou em direção à saída. Ele puxou a porta e de repente viu um de seus parentes, o tio Mike.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. So, can I call on a volunteer to read out the English? Eugenio, go ahead. And if you can fill in the gaps with a suitable translation looking at the Portuguese, please go ahead.
Okay, a Brazilian man called Jonas was studying to be a translator at a university in Brazil. He was... Now I have to answer, or someone?
Anyone?
Well, he was preparing, doing, I don't know which specific word to say, but never realizing,
No,
into
that's right.
cognates between
Very good.
Portuguese and English. He would often spend many hours in the library,
Okay.
browsing through books and newspapers to find sources for the PhD thesis he was writing. Jonas felt very at home indoors with his head buried in a book or focused on his laptop. On Tuesday night, when the library had just closed, Jonas picked up his blouses for women shirt and walked towards the exit. He pulled the door open and suddenly saw one of his next of kin. Could be
next of kin.
Uncle Mike.
Okay, Eugenio, thank you for being so brave.
In front of
in front of 80 people. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have some options in the chat, right? So the first one, the false cognate here, we wouldn't say realize research. So perhaps doing some research, conducting some research. Somebody put researching. Okay, but the false cognate there is realizar, so it's not realize, okay? And normally research is uncountable. You could make it countable by saying a research project, but then that would change it slightly. Then you said, Eugen, you said library. Well done. So biblioteca is library. In a minute, we're going to see livraria. And then we had various ones for this. So this depends on many things. It could be sweater, jumper, pullover, coat, cardigan. So blusa de frio in Brazil is very versatile, right? And so it depends on the variation. In Britain, we probably would say pullover, jumper, hoodie. There's another one. Okay. Then we had pulled the door open. So I'm always banging my head on the door because I never remember if it's pull or push. And then relatives, or as you said, next of kin. So parentes would be parentes would be relatives, and parents would be mom and dad. Okay. So this story carries on a little bit more. Can I have another volunteer for the Portuguese? Pedro. Go ahead.
Good evening, Uncle Mike. No,
The
não. Primeiro,
Portuguese.
yes. Boa noite, tio Mike, ele disse. Não te vejo há muito tempo. Olá, Jonas, respondeu Mike. Eles conversaram um pouco, e o tio de Jonas sugeriu pegar um lanche enquanto colocavam o papo em dia. Jonas concordou e eles foram a um café perto de uma livraria. Jonas sempre se deu muito bem com o tio. Jonas contou sobre sua pesquisa e o quanto estava fascinado pelos falsos cognatos entre português e inglês. O tio Mike, sempre espirituoso, sorriu e disse em inglês: I think I will have some sleeve juice. Jonas riu. Muito engraçado. Você quer dizer suco de manga, não é?
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Well done. So, someone to read the English? Who would like to read the English?
I can read it.
Anna Clara.
Okay. Good evening, Uncle Mike, he said. I haven't seen you for a long time. Hello, Jonas, Mike replied. They chatted for a while, and Jonas' uncle suggested grabbing a bite or a snack while catching up. Jonas agreed, and they went to a cafe near a bookstore. Jonas had always got on well with his uncle. Jonas told him about his research and how fascinated he was by false cognates between Portuguese and English. Uncle Mike, ever witty, grinned and said, I think I'll have some sleeve juice. Jonas laughed. Very funny. You mean mango juice, right?
Okay, well done, Anna Clara. So you said a bite or a snack, then you said bookstore, which would be more American, bookshop, more British, and then the joke at the end, the mango juice. Okay, so afterwards we would study this a little bit more because there are also other false cognates in there, like boa noite, good evening. So good night would be when you are going to bed. Okay, and many others. And also we would discuss whether the translation is accurate as well. Okay, so just a little insight into false cognates. I'm going to move on because of the time. So now let's talk about collocations. So collocations are words that go together, like a chunk, right? So for example, you would say strong coffee. What we've just had now, to do research or to conduct research. And one place that you can find collocations is the Oxford Collocations Dictionary, which looks like this, but it's also online for free. And it's wonderful because you can look at a word like research as a noun, and then you can look up all the adjectives that go with research, like detailed, in-depth, painstaking, etc. You can see the quantifiers, so it's a piece of research because it's uncountable. And the verbs, carry out, conduct, do, undertake, be based on, and of course not realize. Okay, so you can also find these in the corpus of contemporary American English, and you can see the frequency of them as well. Or if you're looking more for British National Corpus, or somewhere like Ludwig Guru. So there are many, many different sites. You can look on Google Scholar, depending on what area you are translating, okay? So I use various different sources when I'm translating. Okay, so I got a little challenge for you now, which is a crossword, okay? And we're gonna take the word attention as the noun and look at collocations with attention, okay? So I'm just going to start you off in this crossword and give you two of the answers. So 2 down is lavishes, and 7 across is vying. And people are already on the ball. They're writing the answers here. So, okay. let's have a look then. So let's start from the top. My aunt needed urgent, and I can see that you're all putting medical. Good, medical attention. Okay, as she was feeling unwell. And then what about for across? We've got S. Okay, Laura put span. Well done. Span. So we've got, nowadays, the average human attention span is said to be 8 seconds. 6 across, anyone. The interpreter gave her something attention to what the speaker was saying to convey a clear message to the audience. Anybody? Let me see. I'll give you a clue. Begins with U. Yes, well done, Juliana. That's a nice collocation, undivided attention. So if we are using mindfulness and we are focusing, we have undivided attention. Then we had 7 across, which was the celebrity was surrounded by fans all vying. So this word vying is when you compete to be noticed, vying for attention. Then we had 2 down, lavishes. The elderly man lavishes attention on his pets, meaning that he gives a lot of care. It's very exaggerated. Okay, and that goes with the preposition on. Number 3 down, what did you put? I felt my attention. It begins with W. Yeah, you got it. Okay, wandering. Wandering. And the last one I think you all got is center. So it can be spelled center like this, British, or center, ER, American spelling. Well done, everyone. Okay. So I like to use crosswords and things like that to get people interactive. Okay, so let's go on to countable and uncountable nouns, which is another pitfall in versão, so from Portuguese to English. Can you think of any while we're talking now? For example, equipment is always uncountable, and you would have to use a partitive noun to say a piece of equipment or 2 pieces of equipment. Information, Eugenio, right. So piece of information, okay. Anything else? Advice, good. So in Portuguese, you can say dois conselhos, but in English, you would have to say 2 pieces of advice. Research, money, water, that's right. So water is a liquid, so liquids are normally uncountable. Time, food, feedback, great. Okay, you're on the right track. Rice, yes. So if you want to make that into a partitive noun, you can say a grain of rice. As it's Friday, beer. Okay. Now, beer is an interesting one because so in normal speech, we can go to the pub and say, can I have a beer, please? But what we're really saying is a glass of beer, but nobody says a glass of beer, maybe a pint of beer. Okay, so there again, we've got the prescriptive versus the descriptive grammar. So what's in the books and what is being said. Okay, so some words can be countable and uncountable. For example, we made a toast countable to the newlyweds, and I had some toast with jam for breakfast. So completely different meanings. The first one, brinde, and the second one, torrada. Okay. What about the others? Can you guess what they are? Okay, Leonardo's on the ball. Yeah. So the first one, the researcher presented an academic paper. So that would be like an article. And that's countable. So maybe he presented 2. And the second one would be scrap paper, or I could say a sheet of scrap paper, okay? So then you've got uncountable. And also, if you said a paper, I could also understand a newspaper. I'm just going to buy a paper from the newsstand. Okay. We keep our what in the backyard? Chicken. That's right, Lineker. So we keep a chicken. That means that the chicken is alive. And would you like roast chicken means that it's dead. Okay, that's the difference. So countable, they're clucking, they're alive, and roast chicken, we hope they're dead when you eat them. Okay, and then the last one I saw, you put rock. Okay, could be rock, it could be. I saw pebble as well. It could be pebble, and it could be stone. That's right. So I have a stone in my shoe, and the house was built of stone. Okay, so there are many like that, which can be countable and uncountable, and they change their meaning. Okay. All right. So moving on quickly, lots to get in. Right. So remember I talked to you about style. So the language of advertising, for example. Now this can be a little tricky if you get a company who's asked you to translate a certain advertisement, okay, depending on where you are. So for example, here is an advert. What do you think it's about? A gym membership, going to the gym. That's right, exactly. Okay. So imagine that you've been asked to translate this advert into English, maybe at a university where there are lots of international students, okay? And thinking about the language of advertising. So we're talking about marketing, we're talking about persuasion, we're talking more informally because it's for young people, maybe for students, okay? Any idea how you would translate this? I mean, there are various ways, but does anyone have an idea? Time to come back, okay? It's time to come back. It's time to get back on track. I like that because the track has to do with the gym, right? Okay. What about alunos inativos há mais de 3 meses? Ganham até 30% de desconto. So the word inativos, if you translated it literally in English, would be inactive, but that sounds very strange. Sounds very formal, sounds even a bit computerish. Luisa's thinking. So is Ana Clara. Absent also sounds a little formal. Passive members. Okay, I understand what you mean, but I'm not sure if that would go down so well. Missing. Students skipping for over 3 months get a 30% discount. Okay. That's also very nice because of skipping for a gym, yeah? Nice one. So we've got to have this play on words a little bit to attract people, yeah? Anything else? And also the part at the end there, mensalidade, 99 reais. Okay. Those who are away for more than 3 months might have up to. Okay, Carol, yeah. Right. So maybe we would take out those just to make it a bit more succinct. Well, here is a possibility. Of course, it's not set in stone, right? We could spend ages on this. Yeah, we can think about memes as well. Ghosted. Yeah, good one. So I went down the same line as, I don't remember who that said about track. So time to get back on track, perhaps. If you've been away, and notice that I've used a contraction because contraction can be used in informal English. So if you've been away for 3+ months, enjoy up to 30% off. I could just stop there, or 30% off your membership. Monthly fee, 99 reais for the first 3 months. So we'd have to get the right word there, fee, rather than fare. Fare is for transport, or taxes for imposto. So, you know, we'd have to get the right word. Returning members, yeah. Also, maybe sounds a little bit formal for the students. Okay, lapsed as well. So this is where register comes in, right? Returning, lapsed, perhaps a little bit too formal. It's not easy. Okay. All right, so let's try another one. This time from a pizzeria, but they're actually advertising cakes, probably for birthdays. Okay. How would you translate this one then? Bolo grátis com 20 convidados, seu bolo e seu rodízio sai na faixa, de terça a quinta. Free cake, okay. Good one. Okay, isso sai na faixa. It's actually from São Carlos. So it's a local thing here. All right, so we've got cake free of charge, free cake, all inclusive for 20 guests or over. Mm-hmm. Come visit us, we have free cake. That's nice. How are you going to translate rodízio? All you can eat. Good one. Yeah. That will go down well with students. All you can eat. Free cake and meal for birthdays, parties, down to 20 guests. Okay. Right. We still need to put the rodízio there. Because the rodízio, I understand, would be the pizzas, right? So you get a free cake. Invite 20+ people to get your birthday cake. And the let me just see. All you can eat buffet will be your gift. Okay. Right. Okay. So yeah, it maybe isn't a very good advert because we're difficult to understand. Okay, so I put free cake, bring 20 guests, and your cake and pizza buffet I put. But I thought about all you can eat pizzas or something like that. And then I put are on the house. Right, so because that means free. So Tuesday to Thursday. Okay. Unlimited pizza, like that one. Okay, unlimited pizza. Great. All right, so it's tricky, isn't it? It's not easy to get these things. Yeah, and daria uma crise de diabetes, exactly. Okay, let them eat cake. We'd have to get the joke there, right? Okay, so let's go on to pragmatics now. Now, I did a little project with some students where it was all about world Portugueses and world Englishes, okay? So these are terms that are more modern and have been studied since, I don't know, maybe over the last 15 years or more. And it also has to do with decolonization, which is very trendy at the moment, okay? So I did this little project with 2 students, actually. And first we did the world Portugueses, and then we did world Englishes. So what we did was we tried to find some people who were from Portuguese-speaking countries. So we actually found someone from Portugal, and we found someone from São Tomé, and in Africa, right? And we started making this glossary. So what we did was we had an image. You can't see the image here, but we had an image, and we showed them this image by a video chat. We had a chat with them, and then we asked them how they would say that thing. Okay, so we have açougue in Brazil, apparently in Portugal, talho, and São Tomé, talho. And then we had the validation. So, for example, I think Celso was from São Tomé. Then we had bala in Portugal, rebuçado, doce, rebuçado in São Tomé. Berinjela, we realized that we could spell it with G or J in Brazil. Berinjela, berinjela. Then we had café, cafezinho, café in Portugal, bica, and café. And then we made some notes as well. Tomar cafezinho, tomar café, uma bica, beber café. And then we had café da manhã, pequeno almoço, of course, in Portugal, pequeno almoço, and mata bicho. Okay, so of course we only interviewed one person who was from a particular region, right? So we could make it even bigger and, you know, interview other people from the same country, maybe different, different backgrounds, etc. But it was very interesting because we had a live talk with these people. We recorded the videos, and we started making a glossary. Okay. And then we did one as well for English, world Englishes. So we had USA, UK, and India. So for example, USA, we had sneakers, UK trainers, and in India, sport shoes. Pajamas with an A, pajamas with a Y, and pajamas. And in this case, we made notes with the Indian guy. He wasn't sure if it was PY or PA. When we had a problem, we noted it down. So, for example, vest in the USA, waistcoat in the UK. And then when we were asking Hari from India, we weren't really sure if he'd understood exactly what we were talking about, even though we had an image. But then he gave some very useful information about a kurta pajama, which is that long, loose-fitting tunic that falls to the knees and can have long or short sleeves, maybe plain, decorated with embroidery or patterns. So he gave us many details about this other kind of pajama that they use in India. Okay, so it was a very interesting talk. And basically what we did, we used food and fashion. So we had 2 topics, and we interviewed various different people. So that's something that you could do as well, all about interculturality, talking to people from different cultures, seeing how they say things, hearing their accent, and asking details. So it's a nice activity. Okay. Okay, and then so something else to do with pragmatics. I found this nice little article why do the British say sorry so much? So saying sorry in the UK, so you can check it out afterwards. But I just wanted to show you how sorry is used in the UK in so many different ways. Okay, so for example, we have a category that is minor physical interactions, used even when the speaker is not at fault. So if you bump into someone in a shop, you may say sorry, and someone bumps into them, into you, you may also say sorry, right? It doesn't make much sense, but there you go. If you brush arms with someone on the public transport, oh, sorry. Block someone's path accidentally. Reaching for the same item at the same time in a supermarket. Standing too close in a queue. Oh, sorry, because we need this distance, okay? This is very cultural. Also for negotiating space and movement, used to soften small intrusions. So you're going through the door at the same time, okay? You bump into someone, sorry. Squeezing past someone on a bus, asking someone to move slightly. So again, the space. Sitting next to a stranger. So you might sit on a train and sit in a place and you would say, sorry. Walking in front of someone, interrupting someone's line of sight. So you notice that you are blocking their sight. Oh, sorry. And then we have asking someone to repeat something, which is the most usual. Interruptions. So used in conversational management. Interrupting someone mid-sentence. Correcting someone. Disagreeing politely. Asking a question in a group. Speaking too loudly. So you notice you're speaking too loud. Oh, sorry. Not hearing properly. We know that one. Asking for clarification and changing the topic. So if you're in a meeting and you feel that somebody is taking over and you want to change the topic, you can say, sorry. Okay, I'd just like to change the topic. Very useful word. And then we have more. So empathy, emotional alignment. Whereas it's not an apology, it's an empathy marker. So for example, imagine you go to the UK and it's raining and someone says, I'm sorry about the rain. It's not their fault, right? But it's something they might say. Or you had a bad day. Oh, I'm sorry you had a bad day. Showing sympathy after loss, of course, you know, somebody died. Reacting to bad news, responding to frustration, acknowledging inconvenience, expressing concern, or comforting someone. Okay. Service and customer interaction. So these are quite ritualistic rituals and maybe not very genuine sometimes. So when a shop apologizes for a delay, saying sorry while helping, that's strange, but it's true. Apologizing for waiting time, customer apologizing to staff, asking for help. Oh, sorry, could you help me, please? Making a request, returning an item, getting in someone's way. And then we have responsibility and actual fault. So this is where the genuine apology comes in. So being late for class, for example, I'm sorry I'm late. Making a mistake, breaking something, misunderstanding, saying something inappropriate, missing an appointment, etc. Okay, so thanks, Louisa, for telling me. So lots and lots of ways that you can say sorry. If you've been to the UK, I'm sure you will know how many times we say sorry there. Okay, very useful word. Okay, so I am finishing. These are some references. I can give you the PowerPoint afterwards. So we've got various books and that article that I said, okay? And so I'd just like to finish by giving you my email, if you want to get in touch. My Instagram, it's @JG Coury. And I have a blog. So if you want to check it out, it's janeeltblog.com.br. And you will see lots of activities there that you can use in class, and some books that I've written as well. And so please just get in touch. Okay. So yeah, we have 10 minutes for questions. Okay, let me get out of here.
Right. Thank you, Jane. Thank you very much. It was a really interesting presentation, really nice. And
Great, thank you.
I guess I'll just take the moment to see if there are any questions here or any comments.
Sure.
I guess I can start with my own question, which I was wondering in the part you're mentioning about the sorry word use in Britain, because oftentimes we hear from foreigners that we Brazilians, and I guess especially here in São Paulo, will say obrigado and por favor very much, a lot as well. And I was wondering what was your opinion about this, since you are also a foreigner and you have so many years living here. So I would really love to hear it.
Right, yeah. So I think a lot of people say obrigado, por favor. I live in São Paulo state. I'm not sure in different states. I've never lived in another state. I've been to other states. But a curious thing here in São Carlos, where I live in the interior, is that people say obrigada eu. I'm not sure if that's the same in other places, but I thought it was curious when I first came to São Carlos. Interessante. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll put it in the chat here. But definitely the sorry thing, it's overused in the UK, as you can see, right, from all the explanations that I gave. So it becomes a bit false after a while. You don't really realize if somebody is really being sorry or not. Okay. Okay, so Mayara asked, how did you come up with this idea of teaching English to translators? Well, I was asked to teach English to translators at Phorte. And so I started kind of brainstorming and thinking about it. So what were the pitfalls? What were the main things that translators would have problems with? And as I translate and proofread a lot of stuff, I started making lists. And that's how I came up with this list of grammar, vocabulary. But then I started thinking more about discourse analysis, sociolinguistics, and listening to conversations, eavesdropping. And even in the UK, writing things down when I was listening to somebody, and then thinking about that in, how would I say that in Portuguese, things like that. Okay, so that's why. Yeah, Daniela, obrigadeo significa eu que agradeço. Okay. So Leonardo said, quando olhamos para certas palavras em inglês, esse tipo de confusão com uncountable e falsos cognatos é muito comum na tradução. E em alguns momentos a gente nem percebe. Nós pensamos que escolhemos a palavra certa para o português, mas quando a gente faz a revisão percebemos como não está de acordo com a língua. Yeah. So one of those examples is software. So a lot of people think it's softwares. But actually in English, as far as I know, you would say two pieces of software. As far as I know, we don't say it in the plural. Okay. But it's something that changes. So, maybe in academic articles that might change throughout time. Okay. Other questions? You can talk to me as well. What's the most striking difference between Brazilian and British culture in your opinion? Wow, that's a difficult question, Louisa. Well, I've always felt very welcome in Brazil, and Brazilian hospitality is amazing. So I've always felt that I belong here. I'm not sure how it would be for you if you went to Britain from the first instance. Maybe it might take a long time. So you might perhaps, if you transferred your cultural nuances to the first day in Britain, you might find it a little bit strange. But maybe after a year or so, you might become friends with someone, and maybe that friend might be for the rest of your life. So I think things take time there. But I think we're living in a difficult situation at the moment, world situations where there unfortunately is prejudice, and this comes out a lot, and it's terrible. And a lot of places in Europe, in the UK, this is happening, and it's very kind of like based on appearance or based on the way you speak. So, you know, interculturality is so important nowadays in order for us to understand each other. Let's see what else. Laura said, when I went to London, I felt very welcome, mostly because I felt the city had people from all over the world. Right, yeah. You didn't feel out of place. That is a good point. So, sobre o agradecimento, quando alguém diz obrigado ou obrigada, e você responde obrigada eu, é uma forma coloquial e correta de dizer eu também estou grata. Ou eu fico grata. Thank you for that, Ivanildo. Thank you. Okay. Other questions? So something I find interesting in lessons, because we have people from all over Brazil, Brazilians living abroad, is exactly the contributions that everybody brings to the class. So in the South, you might say something different to somebody in the North, and then we have a wonderful, rich discussion on that. Okay, Evinaldo Beccario, Gramática do Brasil. Sorry, Midian. That was me being naive. Thank you. Okay, any other questions?
Bom, pessoal, se ninguém tem mais nenhuma pergunta para a professora Jane, então acho que já dá para a gente finalizando por aqui.